So today I'm going to share with you the $1 billion acquisitions advisory process. We've been involved in almost $1 billion worth of transactions in the last 5 years in acquisitions.com and rollups.com as advisors, as investors, as rollup sponsor. And I want to share with you a lot of the stuff that will help you really get to a point where this is your career, right? And I'm going to share my screen and let's get started, right? So first of all, I think we all need to ask, first of all, like, do you agree the world has changed, right? Like, we're at this point, we are, in a skill-based marketing. If you don't have skills, it will be very difficult to be successful at this or anything else in whatever career you want to build, right? And maybe it sometimes feels like, hey, this is too competitive, right? Like, what are you doing competitive? Right? What are you doing if everything is just too competitive? Well, in the end of the day, you need a blueprint, right? So this is what we're going to go through today. And we're going to go through some of the process of what you need to know. So I'll share with you the process that got us to a point where we're doing billions in deals in the last few years. I'm going to share with you how we've done it from cold, right? So cold, like no previous experience. I didn't really have anything, like none of the deals that I was involved with came from my network after I became an advisor, right? So a lot of the acquisitions that I've done myself personally came from my own network, but I'll show you how I built a network of deals coming to me and me able to advise on them, right? So I'm going to share you that. So look, in the end of the day, you also need to understand I'm not good at this because I've done something you have not done. I'm nothing special, really. I'm listening to my English. It's not even my first language. I'm not even that good. I'm nothing unique. I'm good at this because I've learned something that you may have not yet learned. Again, back to skills, right? And I practice a lot those skills and I continue to learn to find new skills, new mentor, new processes. So look, at this point, I made thousands of calls with potential clients and businesses that I advised on. And we have thousands of calls recorded. So at this point, we find patterns, right? We have the patterns. So let me start by sharing with you, like when you're about to work with businesses as an advisor, like some of the main questions that people are going to ask you, right? They're going to ask you, so for you to be an advisor and get to a point, questions, right? So for you to get to a point where you're able to work with a business and connect between a buyer and a seller, a lot of them will give you a lot of objections. So I want to share with you kind of like some of the questions you're going to get and how you can overcome them. So to start with, they're going to ask you for what qualifies you to help me buy or sell a business, right? So they're going to ask you for your capability. It's funny how difficult it is to write and talk at the same time if you're not used to it. Then they're just going to ask you, they're going to be overwhelmed, right? So they're going to ask you like, hey, why it's so stressful? Like they'll feel stressful because a lot of those people sell or buy a business for the first time. So it's all about complexity, right? And it's your job to help them clarify things. Then they will ask you, hey, like, can you even find a buyer or a seller for my needs? Like if I have a business I want to sell, can you find me a buyer? Or if I'm a buyer, can you help me find a deal? So they'll want results, right? Results. Then they'll ask you something about like, hey, what are you actually going to do to help me, right? So they'll ask you about your process. Then they'll ask you, okay, cool. So what are you going to do? Like, would what you do even matter? Like, I can go out there and just watch YouTube videos, right? Or I can just put my business on Biz Buy Sell, right? So they'll ask you like, can you even do a better job? So they'll ask you for some kind of understanding of your distribution, or let's just call it exposure. Then they'll say, hey, like, everyone who's talking to me, they all kind of like look the same. I mean, I have 10 other people who can help me. Like, why is your stuff better, right? So we're at a point where commodity, like how can we differentiate ourselves that we're not a commodity, right? Because in the market, people might think we're all the same. Then they'll be like, hey, why everyone who talks to me say that they're the best, right? So you'll be like, you need to show them some proof. And then they'll probably ask you, okay, what can I sell my business for, right? So some question about pricing. like what can you sell my business for? They'll ask you like why everyone is telling me that I can sell my business for a different price. So some kind of a market dynamic situation, right? And then they're probably gonna ask you, hey, like I'm not even sure what's your process gonna look like? Like what are you gonna go negotiate about, right? So it's gonna be a bit of a black box for them. Like they don't even know what you're doing or negotiate about, and so there's gonna be a lot of like, call it black box area, right? So they're gonna feel like, what's going on here? So, well, in the end of the day, where's the answers, right? So those are all gonna be your objections when you're gonna work with buyers or sellers and you wanna take a percentage from it, right? You can make 10% from a deal, but you need to overcome those objections. So at this point, we engineered some kind of a presentation to answer those questions. So we're gonna go through some of those points, right? But you might ask, first of all, why we even get those objections, right? So why we get objections in the first place. And by the way, at the end of the day, if you wanna comment below or just email support at acquisitions and I could send it over with my team. So why you're getting objections, first of all, the value isn't clear, right? So your value proposition is not clear enough. Number two, maybe just your presentation is not good enough, or your sales skill is not good enough, or your script, right? So something about kind of like your process, or call it presentation. Presentation just isn't good enough. And the third reason is your brand just isn't good enough, or not big enough, or people don't recognize you as an authority. So people don't see you as coming from a credible company. So for number three, that's why we decided to open the acquisitions.com advisory ecosystem, because you can work under acquisitions.com brand and pretty much solve your authority right away. Like some of the biggest comments I get from people that I talk to, like, and I message like multi-billion-dollar CEOs, like public company CEOs and executives, and the first thing they're telling me is like, hey man, cool domain, right? Like I want to talk to anyone who coming to me from acquisitions.com about acquisition, right? So it's kind of like almost like an immediate authority build. So we pretty much solved that, but let's talk today about the 1 and 2, right? The value and the presentation a bit. So what do we do, right? So there's a flow to it, there's a structure to make it work. And it's kind of like, I think that any presentation kind of got 3 steps, right? You frame, you organize, and then you transition. So it's almost like, I feel like in every presentation you're having, also in sales in general, you need to frame things, you need to organize things and keep it simple with some kind of an example, and then transition into pretty much the repeat of a new frame, so you could overcome all those objections, right? So frame, organize, transition. So quickly, what is each? Scripting versus framing. You might ask, I mean, scripting is for you to organize your thoughts for their benefits. Framing is creating a container for them to stay intellectually engaged on a specific result, right? And when you organize something, I'll use the words like show, flow, demo. You either show something, you flow something, or you demo something, right? This is kind of like the organize. So it's kind of like showing something. We have to show proof. The more proof you had versus promises, the better. Again, that's why working with acquisitions.com is so beneficial for this, because you can write on our case studies on hundreds of deals that we were involved in. And you can say, hey, this is my team, right? So in transition, it's pretty much when you smoothly, like I said, go from one frame to another. So look, my goal here is to really give you the framework to make money on this. And I'm telling you that if you level your skills, you could really make tons of money with this. But you'll need to learn the skill, because, I mean, look, it's not your fault, but it's your problem, right? So when you learn about this, it's like you're taking the red pill, right? You need to understand this is possible. Like if you're doing a $10 million deal and you're taking 1 to 10% of this, and you're doing few deals like this a year, I mean, you don't need much more than that, especially if you can take 1 to 10K a month retainer. And you can take much more, especially if you work with big companies. Like there's a guy, Mark, that I worked with, he's taking now like 50,000 a month retainers per company, per public company, plus you get a percentage per deal close, right? So those are the numbers that's possible, and you can get there pretty quick, and you can get there as a one-man show. You don't need like a massive team for that. That's the beauty. So let me give you a few examples of what I mean by framing, organizing, and transitioning, right? So for example, framing, you can go to a potential business owner, you tell him, look, my goal here is to bring you an unfair advantage by listing your business with me, right? By trying to sell the business with me. And we do that, you tell him, we do that by plugging into our track record of success. And then you can tell them, look, and we organize it to you by, the way you organize it to them is by teaching them and giving them proof that you can solve any issue for them, right? So you tell them, look, we've been involved in almost $1 billion worth of transactions. That's a track record of success that you can tap into from the moment you work with us. And you tell them, look, we're not just a random company, we are acquisitions.com. Who would you like to support you more in acquisition other than acquisitions.com, right? And you say this, and I'm telling you, 95% of business owners will be like, okay, yeah, this guy, he got the capability, he got the credibility, right? But then you will be like, okay, so how do you do that? And in the end of the day, look, business acquisition is kind of like a game of people, contracts, players, power players. So let me show you kind of like how to navigate it, right? So you tell them, look, Mr. Business Owner, there are, in the end of the day, few major agreements that govern any business acquisition. There's a seller, broker or advisor. There's a buyer advisor, and usually there's some kind of a seller and purchase, sales and purchase agreement for both sides. And hopefully I'm not overwhelming you. I'm just going through the process right now, but that's how I would start by getting a contract with the business owner. I'll be like, look, here's a sample of a contract of what the end point could look like. Let me show you that. And maybe even show them a sample of field purchase agreement so they get confident that you know the process, right? You show them, look, here's an agreement. That's what it's going to look like, right? Here's what this looks like. And when you show it, you first of all immediately show your expertise. You're like, look, okay, this guy knows what's needed to close a deal. And you tell him, look, my job is to bring you an offer for your business that you want, right? Like the price that you want, the terms that you want, and that's going to be reflected in the purchase contract. So why won't we fill this perfect purchase contract for you right now? And then you can do a bit of a demo. Let's write some numbers in the contract, right? So instead of going to business owners, be like, hey, what do you think your business worth? You kind of flip in the script. You tell them, look, here's a sales and purchase agreement. Our goal is to get this filled in the next few months. Tell me what's the number that you want to see here, right? I'm telling you, just by doing that versus going to business owners and telling them, hey, what do you think your business worth? And putting complexity on things, that alone can change your trajectory in this world. And when they committed to putting that number on a contract, it's a different experience, right? So you do that, and it's almost like an immediate proof of, okay, first of all, this guy looks like he knows what's needed. And now they feel like they need you, right? So there's complexity in the process, but you deliver it with simplicity. Just like, look, here's the contract we need to sign in the end of the day to get this deal done, and we need to put a number here. So you frame the contract up front, then every conversation becomes easier because you are the advisor, you're the expert. Otherwise, I see too many people that try to get into it and they spend too much time on rapport building for too long, and you don't want to waste time with people who are not serious or certain about this. So they think now, okay, the company is good, it's acquisitions.com. They talk to me about purchase agreement, sales and purchase agreement, and price. Now they think to themselves, okay, like I wonder how they're going to find me a buyer for the business, right? When you can tell them something, look, Mr. Business Owner, you probably think how I'm going to find those buyers, right? But we have to solve a much bigger problem first. We need to figure out who is going to be the buyer. And that is basically what we calling kind of the buyer universe, right? So you tell them, look, let's first of all break down the buyer universe to a few categories. Let me show you. So there are existing active buyers, there are non-active buyers, there are potential people you know and people you don't know, right? We have this kind of like a box of all those categories in them. And your job is to show them ideally that you're gonna do work in all of those. So if it's passive, kind of like non-active buyers, then it's going out there and doing marketing, like outreach campaigns or ads. If it's active ones, so maybe from previous buyers that you worked with. If it's people you know, obviously it's people you know or that he knows. If it's those you don't know, maybe it's companies in the similar space or area, or people who saw some of your posts. And you tell the seller, look, this is how we find the active buyers that we don't know. Let me explain to you our process. We do this, we do marketing, we do Instagram, email, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube. Obviously while keeping confidentiality, etc. Versus all the other brokers that will come to you, they're only going to put it on a biz buy sell that you can do on your own, and they're not going to do much work. All right, so your job is to show them that you're going to do some work in each of those boxes. Right? If it's in someone in your database, someone that is a passive buyer, or maybe it's in your CRM already. If you don't know, can you do obviously marketing work? And you want to find active buyers that you don't know as well. So how do you find them? You do the work, right? So you tell the seller, the seller is going to ask you how you're going to find buyers that you don't know. And you're going to tell them, look, I have a process. So let me show you the process. And you show him the process. And you tell him, look, I have a proven listing launch process that have few key phases, right? And you make it serious. You show him ideally everything you're doing, you show him everything like ideally in graphs and in presentations. You have like a prep, you have like a pre-launch to live. Right, so you show him this kind of like cool presentation and you tell him, okay, cool. Now when you're active on the market, active on market, right? And you show him, this is what I'm gonna do in days 2 to 7. This is what I'm gonna do from days basically, this is gonna take me 2 7 days. It's gonna take me 5 days. And active in the market, hopefully we're not gonna be more than 30, 60 days. And you tell him, look, this is what we're gonna do, right? And each of those processes, this is what we're gonna do. And when you give me the go ahead, I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to do here 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And you show him, look, I have a lot of work I'm going to do. Then you tell him, look, the time frame for me to help you get a LOI is 30 to 60 days. And then you probably need another 60 days or so for due diligence, and then you're going to close the deal. And you tell him, this is the time frame, and after that, you're going to get the money. And when we do all this, that's where you show him you're serious. And now, when he's aligned with you on your process, and you show him your marketing channels, your marketing process, he's taking you much more seriously. And you tell him, look, we have a personalized marketing plan for every single business we work with, depending on the scale, the size of the business, and the deal target. And we have proven strategies that are generating results in the current market conditions. Because you don't know, buyers can come from everywhere. So you show him as much as possible. And if you can show him analytics that you had in the past or data that you have in the past from previous deals or previous work that you've done, everything is beautiful, right? And you tell them, look, cookie cutter marketing will give us cookie cutter results. That's why we prefer a system-based approach that is going to be super personalized. And you show him systems, you show him processes, you can literally create unique processes yourself. We have some of ours, right? Like, what do we do in each day? And when you show it to them, it's like, okay, you're serious. So your job is to tell a story so they take you seriously. Right? So what can you do to show them that you're serious? And you tell them, look, this approach is what sets us apart from the average broker or old school brokers that will go, door knocking only, finding businesses in your city only. And when you do that, you put the average agent in a box and make them look like they suck, right? You just label them and you won't get objections on how you're good, how you're different than others. And you tell them, look, we're taking the best tried and true approach and combining it with what is working right now. And ideally you show them visuals, as many visuals as possible, right? The more the better. The more proof you have, the better. And if you can share case studies, look, it reminded me my client Jimmy, right? Again, you're showing proof. And if you can talk about the market, that'll be great as well, right? You tell them, look, pricing, in the end of the day, directly influenced by some global events, national economies, and also local market conditions. And you tell them, look, in the end of the day, business acquisition, just like real estate, tend to work in cycle markets, right? And I'm doing my best to get you the most competitive price and terms in the current market. And you can talk to him macros as well. Tell him, look, there are X businesses in the US, there are Y businesses that are in this state, there are X businesses in your area alone, 3 active for sale, 2 sold in the last year. Like, the more data you can show, the better. And yeah, memorize it if you can. Go do your research about your sector. So just by doing some of those things, and ending it with like, okay, cool, would it be okay to sketch out some timeline to see if it's helpful and get us started? That alone, if you just follow this, and obviously there's much more to it, but framing it, organizing it for them, and transitioning back, and always showing proof versus promises, always talking about your brand, improving your presentation, and showing how much more valuable you are than anyone else. And you're showing that you're valuable by having a unique process, and by having a great brand, and by constantly improving your presentation. The more you'll improve those things, the better and easier it will be for you. So it was a bit all over the place. Let me know in the comments below if it was valuable to you. And yeah, email us support@acquisitions.com if you want to learn how to become an acquisitions.com advisor. And yeah, I love you. Bye bye.